Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is one for the ladies. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be for the ladies, but we're gonna be talking a lot about down there. Today is gonna be all about cervical screening, getting your smear test done, my experience getting it done for the first time, and all that good stuff. So if that is not your jam, click out now. So this video is not just for those who maybe aren't right at the time for needing smear tests yet, but also obviously for people who are preparing for their first time, or it could be for those who have put it off, or whatever your reason may be. There is no, like, this is a safe space. There is no shaming if you've put it off or if you're scared to have it done. Like, this is going to be a safe bubble, and hopefully this video encourages you to maybe go and get it done, or look into getting it done, or, you know, booking an appointment and, you know, maybe not putting it off. I have a ton of notes here. I will put it out there. I'm no doctor. This is just going to be from my experience, what I've found on the internet and that sort of thing. So yeah, so where do we start? Okay, let's start with the fact that I got my letter. So this is the letter you get here in the UK. So this is mainly going to apply for ladies here in the UK. We screen from 25 upwards, and it can be every 1, 3 or 5 years depending. I know in other countries they have a lot lower limit on that. Some people can go as low as 19 in countries. I definitely think it should be lower than 25. I got this in the post a couple of weeks ago. So you're invited approximately 6 months before you turn 25. And that's so you can, you know, think about it, read the information book that comes with it, and, you know, book an appointment. So yes, I'm not 25 until August, and I got this a couple of weeks ago in February. The day I got it, I booked my appointment. I literally opened the letter and I squealed in excitement, which is probably a really weird reaction to have, but I'd been knowing that, you know, this is the year I turn 25, this is the year I'm going to start having smear tests. And for me, I don't know, I think it's the fact that it's something I can do to help prevent getting cancer. This is just another thing that I need to do to take care of my body. For me, it's the same thing as like going to the dentist or going to get your eyes checked. It follows in those same categories. And they're all preventative measures, aren't they, to stop you getting like gum disease and making sure your eyes are okay and healthy. It's the same, but it's just down there. So this is the letter that I got, just telling them that they're inviting me for it, that I should contact my local GP. Yeah, it's sent out by NHS England, for us here in England, by the Cervical Screening Administration Service. I got it on the 8th of February. And it comes with this little information booklet, which I think is really great. It says, helping you decide, which I have a problem with straight off, because yes, no one's forcing you to get a smear test. It is not a legal thing you have to have. It's like anything, like dental, eyes. You don't have to have it. But I think you should highly, highly consider having it, because, you know, it's gonna help look for things that can prevent cancer and all different things, and look at your cells. So it tells you everything in here about who they invite, why they invite people, how it works, you know, what they're looking for, what some of the results are going to be afterwards, and, you know, what can go on from those results. So I'll talk a little bit about that later on. I will start off by saying 2 videos that I really would recommend you watch, and I will link them down below. The first one is Brogan Tate, and she did a video with her friend Bianca. Bianca also has a video as well. Yes, I would say start off with Brogan's video. Her and Bianca sit down, they talk all about, you know, their time getting smear tests, what it's like, all that sort of thing. Really recommend. And the other person's video I would recommend, and I recently watched, was Zoella's video. She actually goes to her GP. She goes and has an appointment with her nurse, and they talk you through the whole process, and you see Zoella have her smear test done. Obviously you don't see the business end, but they film as she's having it done. Literally took her less than a minute to have it done, may I add. And for me, I thought it was great to see actually what goes on, because I think a lot of the fear can be around the unknown, and I think the more information you get, the more prepared you're going to feel and the less scared you're going to feel. That's how I found it anyway. So that's why I've gone and done all my research, not just like to help you guys, but also to like prepare me. And I'm not saying I'm going to go in there and be like, yeah, let's get this done. I'm probably going to feel a bit nervous on the day. I think that's normal to get your bits out to a stranger. So as far as a little bit of like personal history, I would say, I've been very fortunate that I've got no, you know, history in the family of cervical cancer and things like that. My mum has always been extremely open with me on things as far as like periods, sex, smear tests, all that. Like, she's the type of lady that put in her periods every month in the family calendar, and we all knew when she was going to be on, God help us. But yeah, I've never been to a smear test with her, but she's always been very open and, you know, prompt at booking them. I do know people that have put off their smear tests in my family, and I know people that have been signed up for they're due their first test this year and are putting it off, or worried about it. So hopefully this video can help. That's all I want to do, is I don't want to be the pushy friend. I want to be the really caring friend that just encourages you to get it done, because I think it's really important. And if this can help someone go out there and have it done, then that is my job done. I also had my cervical cancer jabs when I was at school. I think we were the first year to get that done, if I remember correctly. They are starting to roll out boys having the jab done, which I think is super, super amazing, because one of the things that they look for when they're down there and test for is HPV. Now, I'm not 100% sure what HPV is. I would also recommend you go and look at the Joe's Trust charity. Again, I will link that down below. That covers all things cervical, smear tests, cervical screening, that sort of thing. So if you've got any questions that you want like proper medical advice from, head over there. I'll talk about them a bit more in a minute. But they are looking for HPV, which can be carried in both boys and girls. Now, obviously, boys don't have cervixes or all of the surrounding paraphernalia. They can carry this disease around, pass it on to women, and they get no side effects. It doesn't affect them. So hopefully this jab that they're rolling out, the same as what we had, will help with that. And HPV doesn't immediately mean you have cancer. From what I gather, it means you just have some abnormal cells that you need to get checked out. But again, it goes on and talks a little bit more in this booklet as well, so read up on that. Don't just throw that away. Let's refer to my booklet. So as far as like my initial thoughts on screening, we were never it's never something that's discussed at school or talked about. It's never something I until this year discussed with my friends, because it was always that thing of when you hit 25, you're going to have your smear test. You know, it was in the media about cervical cancer, especially when Jade Goody had it and died from it. And that's when they really encouraged getting the jab done. And from what I can remember, me and all my friends had the jab. And we thought nothing of it then. Like, you get it done, you think it's just like another vaccination you have, and that's that. So yes, I have my first appointment, my first smear test booked in about a week. And I literally just phoned up and I was like, I've just had my letter in the post inviting me to my first smear test. Can I book it, please? And she was really nice. It was a woman on the phone anyway, but she was like, yeah, I'll book you in with a super nice lady because it's your first time anyway. All the nurses are going to be nice, you know, this is what they do for a living. And that's why that Zoella video is really good, because it talks about a nurse who's had years of experience doing it and answers a lot of questions that women usually have. You know, I'm not sitting down and saying this is going to be the most pleasurable and most comfortable thing you're ever going to have done. Obviously, as filming this, I've not had it done yet. I will record a little bit after I've had it done, like vlog style, I guess, to update you, tell you what it was like for me. And I'll probably record a little bit as well when I get my results come in. They say it can take anywhere from 2 to 12 weeks. They usually say 4 weeks. but give and take again where you are and that sort of thing. Don't let COVID put you off. I know we're in the UK, we're hopefully coming towards the tail end of COVID, but please don't let that put you off booking it. They are still doing the tests, and yeah, it is just as safe as it's ever been in doctor surgeries. So please don't let that scare you or put you off booking it. As for me, I personally am going to prepare all of down there for it, but you don't have to. Just think how many women's foofs they see on a daily basis. I'm going to be doing my legs, I'm going to be shaving my bits, I'm going to make it as nice area as possible, but not just for the nurse, but for me. I want to feel the most comfortable and good about myself going in. You know, I've not shaved my legs for Darren in who knows how long, but I will shave my legs for the NHS nurse, which I find really hilarious. But yes, I'm going to go in wearing probably really comfy clothes, just so I can feel as comfortable as possible. They do say you can wear like a skirt or a dress so you don't feel like you're taking things off necessarily, so I may wear a dress, but let's say it's probably going to be cold, so I'm probably going to be in like jogging bottoms and a hoodie. Yeah, I just want to make myself feel really, really comfortable, and I think that's all we can do to prepare, as well as, you know, getting all your information and that side of things. Obviously, you want to tell them that it's your first time, and, you know, talk to the nurse. They are there to listen to you. If you need someone to go with you, ask if you can. I know, you know, with COVID, it can be difficult to bring in other people as well. But if you're worried, ask them if you can bring someone else, if that is good. Whether you want to bring in your mum or a girlfriend, whoever it may be. They said they've had husbands in as well before. Personally, I don't want anyone there. You know, I'm fine with just a nurse. I'm not sure if there's going to be another person in there with me. Like, I saw, I think, it might have been on Zoella's, but you can ask for a chaperone. I don't know if they stand out, say you have to have a chaperone as far as like another nurse in there, because it's for the nurses' safeguarding, I guess. You know, if you were to say you like got abused or whatever, it's safeguarding both you and the nurse with you. Not that that's going to happen, but yes. Also, I have heard that you can ask for like a double appointment or a longer appointment. So if you have had uncomfortable smears in the past, or you know it takes a little bit longer, or again, if it is your first time, you don't want to feel rushed. So just ask, you know, can I have a little bit of a longer appointment, or I find it difficult, can we book a little bit longer, can I have a double appointment, that sort of thing. And again, that's going to make you feel more at ease going into it. Another thing that I didn't know is they have different size speculums. So if you don't know, the speculum is a thing, the clamp looking thing that they will put inside you. They start off with medium, but they do have a larger one, and then they have, I think, 3 smaller ones than the medium, going all the way down to what they call their virgin one. And I think that again is really useful to know, because there's many different reasons why people put them off, whether it be they just don't want to show, you know, their bits to someone, or they think it's going to be uncomfortable. Obviously people have religious reasons for, you know, not having sex. I'll talk about that in a minute, why you should still have a smear test even if you've not had actual intercourse. But yes, I think if you struggle, you know, with tampons, or you struggle with intercourse in general, they do have smaller speculums and what they call a virgin toe, which is essentially just their smallest speculum they can have. So that's another thing that I didn't know. So it's useful for me to go in and say, you know, I know there's different size speculums, because they might not necessarily explain this to you. They might be having a busy day, or whatever the case may be, they might not remember to tell you these things. So you can say, hey, can I have a smaller speculum? And so these are also tips if you've had difficult smear tests before, to go in and say. Again, Joe's Trust I think is really good for giving advice. They give a lot of advice for people as well if you've been abused, or if you've been a victim of rape. They have a lot of advice on there for going for your smear test after that, because I can imagine that is a really frightening thing to you know, go and share your bits with someone after having, you know, that really tough time and experience. I have emailed Joe's Trust and tried to phone them. So far, I've not got through to anyone on the phone lines. They do have varying phone line times, so check on their website. It's not just 9 to 5 every day, because they are a charity. I've not been able to get through at all whilst phoning them. I might try and give them a call in a minute whilst we're on here. But I have sent them an email, which was passed on then to their more like Ask an Expert team, which are more like the nurses, so they can give me actual medical advice. But basically, I was asking them along the lines of, can you still have a smear test around the time of ovulation and trying to conceive? Because in the future, that may be something that occurs for me and Darren. You know, for instance, if you're ovulating, you're trying to conceive for a baby, and then the next week you're due a smear test. Those are my sort of concerns, whether you should postpone your smear test until you get a definite yes or no from a pregnancy test, that sort of thing. So I'm awaiting the email. I will try and give them a phone call in a minute. Shall I do it now? Let's see if I can give them a call now. So, big shocker, I couldn't get through to them again. So, I've not had the best of luck with phoning Joe's Trust, but, you know, persevere. You can email them, which I got an email reply pretty much the next day, but just because of the nature of my question, they couldn't answer it, so they passed me on to their Ask an Expert team. As far as after the test goes, you could get a letter back saying you've got abnormal cells. And that initially doesn't mean you've got cancer. It just, well, I mean, they go through it all in here about the different results that can come back. So you can have HPV negative. That means there'll be no further tests, and they will call you back, you know, 3 to 5 years time, depending on your age. They then have HPV positive, but no abnormal cells. At this, they also test for abnormal cervical cells. If none are found, your result will say HPV, but no abnormal cells. So they're sort of looking for two things: the HPV, is it a disease, and abnormal cells. So you could have HPV positive and no abnormal cells. They will ask you to come again for a screening, like sooner than the normal year, 3 years. Then they will ask you HPV positive, abnormal cells found, and there are different grades. You can have low grade or high grade cells, and from that they will then refer you to the colposcopy team, which Brogan talks about in her video, so have a look at that. And then there's also inadequate result, so there may have been you know, a technical problem, they might not have been able to get a good enough swab. They will ask you for another test. They do say also don't go at the time of your period or a couple of days, you know, before or after your period. I think that's it. Don't quote me on that. I wouldn't want to go when I'm having my period anyway. So, you know, when you book it, just book it for a time that you know you're not going to be on your period. I know my mum in the past has booked it and then she has to phone up and move it because her periods come, so they're flexible with that. So yes, you can have, you know, everything's fine, come back, or you can have HPV no cells, HPV abnormal cells, or inadequate test. HPV is fine to have. It can come and go. Your immune system can fight it off. You know, just go by what the letter says. Again, you can look up HPV, but if they say come back in 1 to 3 years, that's that. It's not something you need to tell your partner, if it's a male, because it doesn't affect them. I'm not sure how it works if you're in a same-sex relationship. Also, that being said, HPV can spread just through touch. So you don't have to have fully blown intercourse to get HPV. It can be any form of foreplay that you can get it. So if you are still a virgin, that's when I would still recommend getting a cervical screening, because it's, again, not just looking for, you know, cancers and things like that. It is looking for that HPV and that doesn't necessarily be contracted via intercourse. I'm sorry if I'm getting my words muddled. I'm no doctor, I'm no nurse. Just, yeah, if you want like concrete information, that's when you go into like NHS, Joe's Trust, that sort of thing. But yeah, HPV also doesn't come up in normal STD clinics and tests. So again, that's another reason to go and have your smear test. What else? They do say you can have a little bit of bleeding as they're taking the swab and after. That's completely normal. It can be varying factors why. They do say if you're on the pill, that can induce a bit more bleeding. It's not like a heavy lot, but you may spot. And Zoe, when she had hers done, there was a little bit of blood on the end of the swab. So that's completely normal as well. If you're going for a colposcopy, that is another side, and again there can be some bleeding from that. Go look at Brogan's video for that. And I did find out you may also be able to be referred for colposcopy if they can't reach your cervix. So, I mean, I've heard it bounced around for years that you can have different tilted cervixes. Obviously, I don't know if I've got a tilted cervix because I've never had a child and I've never had a smear test. So yeah, that will probably be the first time where they tell me or find if I've got a tilted cervix or not. If you do, it can be a little trickier. If you know you've got a tilted cervix before going into the smear test, it's going to be worth your while to tell them. Obviously, if you've had smear tests in the past, they have your notes up and it's probably going to be on there. But if for whatever reason you know you've got a tilted cervix, then go and tell them. But you can be referred to the colposcopy department to have just your initial smear test done, because they have, you know, different equipment, they have different beds, and it can help get to the cervix a bit better from what I gather. So that's, I think, really all I've got to say as far as before having my test done. I think the most crucial thing I can say to you is look up the information. Hopefully you've learned a little bit today. I definitely learned a lot when I went in looking for all this information. Just be as comfortable as you can, you know, talk to your nurse when you're there, take someone if you need to, and you know, at any point you can ask them to talk you through what's going on. You can tell them to stop, all that sort of thing, so you can be fully in control of your test. So yes, I have mine next week, so I will let you know how that goes. I will take you on this journey with me, and yeah, so let's head over to Sophie in the future and see how her test is going. Hi guys, so today is the 10th of March and I thought I'd just give you a little update on how the smear journey's going, I guess. So I did have my original smear test or cervical screening test booked for Monday the 15th. I have since put that off until April time, and that may have to get moved as well depending on when I get my period. But I did get a response back from Joe's Trust, and I have also spoken to my doctor regarding ovulation and very early stages of pregnancy and having a screening test. So those were things that I just wanted to talk about with you today very quickly. So let me get up the email that I received from Joe's Trust. So as I said in the last section, my email, or had I sent the email yet? I emailed Joe's Trust and they forwarded it on to part of their expert team, or Ask the Expert team, which are, I would have thought they're nurses, but I'm not completely sure if they are or not, because obviously it was more of a medical issue. So I got a response back from a member of the medical panel, and this is what it says. Thank you for your question. Please be aware my response is based on the information provided and without access to your medical notes or the benefit of a personal examination. So obviously they don't know my history. As far as I'm aware, I don't have any cervical history. So yes, it says cervical screening does not affect your chances of conception, but it is not recommended to have screening done where you are in early pregnancy. It is entirely up to you, but I would recommend having your cervical screening test done prior to trying to conceive. That way you'll be reassured that everything is okay and you'll have no concerns regarding your cervical health and 3 years to have a baby. So let's just digest that email a little bit. So it says it does not affect your chances of conception. From that, I take away with you can have a smear test and then you can go on to conceive normally afterwards, which is what, you know, is the case. That's what I assumed. They do not recommend it in early pregnancy. I believe they try not to do them in the first trimester. Now, in my case, I may or may not even be in the early stages of pregnancy. You know, as I'm filming this today, this is sort of my ovulation window. I mean, now that I could possibly conceive to next Monday when my original screening was booked, I didn't want the screening to affect something that may already be there, if you get what I mean. So it could very well have been in the very, very early days of pregnancy, but it wouldn't have shown up on a test, so I wouldn't have known. So that was where I was left on that. Still a bit unconcerned. It didn't really answer my question. They were just like, it's up to you. So then I messaged my GP. I was like, can I get a call back from a doctor or a cervical screening nurse? And I got a response back from the GP today. He was a little bit like blasé about the whole thing, but from what he said to me, he was like, if I were you, I would just push back your cervical screening for a couple of weeks. He wasn't that bothered about me going for that initial day, which in my mind, like, I've always built this up that it's like a momentous occasion, you need to go have it done. But in reality, you know, a couple of weeks, hopefully, or like a month, isn't going to make a grand bit of difference. So that is what I've done. I have postponed it to the start of April, so hopefully by then I would have either had my period or had a positive pregnancy test. So that's where we're at with this at the moment. I've pushed that back. So yes, I guess the next time I check in with you will be when I actually go and get my screening. So that's coming up. Good morning, guys. So it is the day of my smear test. So today is the 9th of April, I think. So we're finally getting it done today. I thought I'd show you what I'm wearing and, you know, just intro before I go in. I probably am not gonna film the experience. In fact, I know I'm not gonna film the experience because for your first time, it's a bit weird as well just to whip the camera out. But I will do a little debrief afterwards. Say hi. Can you say hi to the peoples? He's like, I've got my little check bandana on. I look like a little, like I'm going to go to a picnic. I look like I'm going on a picnic, baby. So this is my choice today. They do recommend, some people like to wear skirts or dresses just because it's easier. You can just lift it up. You feel like you're still covered. So this is what I chose today. This is a dress I got last year in the sale from Next. It's actually my first time wearing it. So yes, it is relatively warm. It's one of the few warm days we're having at the moment, so also it feels quite nice. Like it's not like it's -2 degrees and I'm wearing a random dress in the middle of winter, you know. So this is what I'm wearing, and I'll just put on a little jacket. Yeah, so my appointment's at 11, so I've got about 40 minutes. I walked the dog this morning and then I came back and had a shower and just did what I need to do to prepare myself, and yeah, so I need to go to the post office before I get there, so I'm gonna do that now and I will check in with you probably when I get back. So let's head off. Right then, so we are back from the smear test. I also realised I pretty much never film with my hair up, so because I feel I look a bit like an egg. But anyway, let's tell you from the beginning what it was like. You could tell that, well, you couldn't tell, but knowing that they do like smear clinics in a surgery, you could tell there are a lot of females, you know, of my age or older going in for their tests. I went in, I had a lovely nurse. I'd say she was maybe like late 50s, early 60s, like that real warming, mothering type, which is lovely. I always prefer those people when I have any procedure done because I think they've got experience, you know, they just know how to put people at ease. So sat down, she obviously knew it was my first time. She was like, any history you're aware of? I was like, no. She obviously confirmed my details and asked me what we were there to do today. So I gave her my little rundown. You know, we're looking for cells. You put the speculum in, open it up, swab around. Bob's your uncle. And she said, yeah, and actually went into it a little bit more detail, what they're looking for, what HPV, and obviously I am one of the first people, we were the first people at school to have the HPV jab, so our results at the moment are really crucial. She said in the future there may be some sort of one-off test that we can have to see if we've got like looking for cancerous cells and things like that, but obviously at the moment the only thing we can really look out is by screening. So I would say her like actually sitting down, telling me, walking me through the process of how she was going to do it that day, that took longer than the actual me sitting on the bed and her doing it. Like I said, she was super nice, and what else did she say? She told me this was like all before like we got on the table. She said, you know, they send you a letter in the post either way letting you know the results. At the moment it's about 3 weeks, but we have just had, you know, Easter, so it might be backdated a little bit, so if I've not heard anything by 4 weeks, get in touch with them. But she said she is really vigilant at making sure those results coming through, and if not, she chases them up at the lab. So she sounded a great nurse to me, and I can only assume that is what she does all day, most days, is doing smear tests. So once we had gone through all the information stuff, she was like, you're gonna sit on the bed, and she like shows you where to sit. You then can like take your underwear off. Obviously I was wearing this skirt so I could just hoik it up. She was like, there's a chair there if you want to put your underwear on there, then get up on the bed, and they give you, not only do they obviously cover the bed with that paper, but they give you quite a bit of like extra paper as well. She was like, that's for you, that's like a security blanket, do what you want with it. So took my underwear up, off, hopped up. I could see she had everything already laid out, so she was like ready to go. So I sat on, I adjusted the paper around me. Yes, it is weird to literally have your bottom half all on show. She did ask as well when she was going through everything, did I want a chaperone? I was like, no, that's fine. I really do not need someone else experiencing this with me. So just went ahead with that. She asked me if I'd had any unusual bleeding or discharge. She also asked me when the first day of my last period was, which is something which took me back a little bit. Luckily, obviously, because I do track my periods anyway on an app on my phone, I could just scroll back to that and have a look. But that's something to bear in mind, that they do ask you that. You could like just write it in a calendar or whatever, or a note on your phone. So yeah, hopped on the bed, got myself all comfy, and you know, my legs are like that, like tight together. She had her little store at the end. They do have a light that they bring down, a bit like, you know, when you're in the dentist and they have a light to bring down. It's essentially like that. So she sat there, brought it down. She was like, when you're ready, just literally let your legs flop. So you're in a bit like a frog position is how I can best describe it. And she did, at least she did that usual talking nonsense talk to you, that polite talk, like trying to get your mind off it. So for me, it was just as much like when I get a blood test and they try and like distract you and I have no idea what they're saying. I talk absolute drivel back because I'm like not quite there with them. But yeah, so we were talking about my dog and like it's nice weather out and that sort of thing, just to sort of take my mind as much as possible off what was going on down there. So the actual procedure itself, like I said, probably took no more than a minute. Like super, super quick. Obviously from that she was able to look at my cervix, so from what we can gather from that, I don't really have a tilted cervix. She seemed quite easily able to get the speculum in there and scrape around for the cells. Now, from what I can gather, she just used a normal size speculum. I didn't ask her what size it was or like if it was a smaller one, but yes, I think they put a little bit of jelly on because afterwards I could see there was like some moisture on it. So yeah, she put it in. The putting in was fine for me. Like, if you've had sex, you know, it is what it is. It's a very similar experience to having a penis put inside you. So that wasn't an issue, that was fine. It's when they sort of open it a little bit that you can feel, oh, something is in there and it's expanding. And I wouldn't say it's painful, it's just uncomfortable, which is, you know, what I expected. So, like, I'm very matter of fact with things like that. If it's got to be done, it's got to be done. Like, that's fine. I've always, like, stuff to do with women's health and that, I've always been very blasé about. Hi, Baloo. Hi. You just finished a treat. So, like, anything to do with periods or bras or anything like that, I've always been like, yeah, go ahead, do what you want. So, yes, obviously I could feel it in there, and it was just like, all I can describe it to is like, if you have, like, when your very first time for sex and something goes in there and you're like, whoa, or if even, like, you know, sometimes when you have a tampon and it's just a bit tight up there, it's a little bit like that feeling. Obviously it's a lot bigger than a tampon, but, you know, it didn't really make that much difference. You know, like when sometimes you've got like a tampon in and then you start to walk around and you feel it's not quite up there. It was a little bit like that sort of uncomfortable feeling. She then put like the swab in and I could feel her sort of, it was literally just like a tickling feeling. I wouldn't say it's a scraping feeling. It definitely didn't hurt, but you could feel it moving around a little bit. I wouldn't say, I mean, I've not necessarily had a coil. I've seen on like GP behind closed doors someone having a coil put in, and it didn't look any worse than that. It was uncomfortable, but it was literally over within a minute. And also, I was thinking about it, I would so much rather have that done any day compared to a blood test. Like, I am a wimp with blood tests. I hate that feeling of it being drawn out. If I could choose between a smear test and a blood test, I would pick a smear test every time. So yeah, it was literally over before we could even talk about what our dog's names were, and she was like, you have bled a little bit, which is completely normal, you know, it's quite a sensitive area, so you may find just a little bit of spotting. She gave me a little panty liner, which was nice, so I just popped that on when I got my knickers back on, and yeah, that was it. She was like, that's all done. She printed off my label, stuck it on, and she was like, you're free to go. So yeah, really quick. I'm so like relieved that it's over now. Obviously now we have that like monthly wait, which kind of sucks that you have to sort of wait that long, but yeah, I think it was obviously I can only speak for my experience, and you know, for me it was fairly easy going. You know, I don't have a tilted cervix. I found it fairly easily, her putting the speculum in and things like that. And like I said in the last clip, there are ways they can help make that easier for you, and that's just something you have to talk about with the nurse with. But yeah, so I am going to wait before I publish video to get my results back. So in about 3 or 4 weeks, I will film another clip, let you know how that went on. And yeah, that is all I've got for you today. So we will hop into the next clip and you'll see in a matter of seconds what's my result. Hi guys, so finally we have the results back. Baloo has decided to join me for this. Yeah, I was actually really surprised how quick it was. The letter is dated the 14th. I had my smear test done on the 9th of April. It took about a week for it to get to me, which I think was really quick. You know, that definitely wasn't what she said to me, as you saw from the last bit. So I've got my letter here. It says, thank you for coming for cervical screening. Your result is HPV, human papillomavirus negative. This means your risk of cervical cancer is very low and there's no need to check for abnormal cells, even if you have had these in the past. Your next screening test is due in the year 2024, and they will send you a reminder when that is due. And then it goes on to say, you know, no screening is 100% effective. In very rare cases, it may fail to pick it up. cancer can develop in between screening tests, so if you have unusual symptoms, to go to your GP. And then if you need any more information, head to the NHS website. So yeah, very fortunate that mine came back negative. That is great. So really, that is where my smear test journey ends for this year and for the next 3 years. So obviously I'm probably going to be in a very different place in 3 years time, but I thought, you know, it was important to document not only my first time but my experience this time around having my smear or my cervical screening, and, you know, waiting for the results. So I hope you found this video helpful. Obviously my case has been fairly straightforward. I wasn't that bothered about going to get it done, and also I was fortunate that my results came back negative. Obviously that's not the case for everyone. I know people who, you know, have had it back saying there's abnormal cells. So as much as this is where my journey ends, I will link down below a couple other videos that I found quite useful to watch. So I will link down Zoe Suggs' video where she actually takes the camera right into her surgery and talks very openly with the nurse. And I will also link Brogan Tate and her friend Bianca. They both have done videos, and they both have had abnormal cells and had to go for further testing. So I'll link those down below, because that might be an outcome that you get, and those videos will be helpful to know where to go after you get your letter back. So yeah, I hope you gained something from this video. I hope it's encouraged you to go and get your smear test done, and yeah, that is all. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.